International Lithium Corporation has released a material piece of news that concerns the acquisition of an option to buy into the Karibib Lithium, Rubidium and Cesium project in Namibia. I said material, and to clarify that, I'm delighted to be joined by the Chairman and Chief Executive, John Wisbey. So, John, if you exercise the option, the update says you could have one of the largest rubidium resources in Africa. So this transaction sounds like it would be a game changer and a possible company maker. Would that be the case?
So I think it's certainly a game changer. Sarah, thank you very much for having me on. I mean, I'd stress it's not just rubidium; it's lithium, rubidium, and cesium. So the lithium is very material. I mean, all this is under JORC resource estimates, and those are the Holy Grail in Australia, but they're not the Holy Grail in Canada. So we have to probably have them revised. So I can't say we've got this resource or that resource, because it's like having a Cambridge degree not recognized in America or something like that. You have to do it again. But anyway, the board has relied on these JRC resources and in making the decision, and we're very excited about it. It's got a lot of lithium. I mean, there are bigger lithium deposits in the world for sure, but we haven't found bigger rubidium deposits. And I've done quite a bit of research and used some research help, even from Grok, which I think raises eyebrows, but it shouldn't, because it's probably the best research system out there. And it's quite clear that we have the largest declared resource in Africa, which is a big continent, for rubidium, not for lithium, but for rubidium. And it's a materially big resource for lithium. I mean, it's large. And cesium, what we have there is equal to about a year of world demand. So that's in times of critical metals and new Cold Wars, that's not a bad thing to have available to Europe and to North America, as opposed to it all being in the East.
So who is the transaction with, and why would the current project owners allow such a large percentage of the asset to go, as it were?
The project has been owned, it's owned 80% by a company called Lipidico, which was quoted on the Australian Securities Exchange. Very capable people running it. But unfortunately, they're in liquidation. And so they had a downstream business and an upstream business. The downstream business would have been very expensive. We didn't take that on. And we have got the jewel in the crown of the upstream business, which is this property in Namibia. So it's been through all the works. It's had a feasibility study in 2020. So normally when you start with a new property, you have to say, we hope there's lithium here or rubidium, and then you do a bit of drilling and you verify there is some. This has actually had a feasibility study to say how much, certainly in the bits that have been drilled, and that's it's a much more advanced resource in exploration terms than for example what we're looking at in other countries like Zimbabwe, and which will be very exciting too, but we won't be able to say things with the same certainty or clarity that we can with this one.
So one company's demise is your company's opportunity. There's a bit of serendipity there, but I'm just wondering, the transaction hasn't gone through yet, but how much is it costing shareholders? And, should you go ahead with the transaction, how long before payback?
That's a difficult question, Sarah. It depends how we do things. I mean, we could have some immediate payback, because we've got there are a whole number of piles of lepidolite and petalite actually have been mined and beneficiated, is the technical word, and basically they're ready to be put into a lorry. So those have market price. It's not as high as it would have been, because the lithium price is lower. That's one of the reasons why the values have gone down. So that could be immediate, although I'm not sure it's a good idea to sell commodities at the bottom of the market. But but it could be. The point is what it could be. Then we've got multiple options on how to develop this. I mean, it's going to, we're going to be doing some more drilling in the next, assuming we exercise the option. We'll do some more drilling early next year because there's already an identified third part of the exclusive prospecting license where we need to spend some money to progress, and also we want to. I mean, it looks a geologically promising area, and then we'll be balancing the expenditure we have in Namibia with the expenditure we have in Raleigh Lake, Ontario, and that becomes a. I mean, but it's an interesting point to start with in order to explain a company what we might have in Namibia and what we do have in Raleigh Lake, Ontario.
So what else does International Lithium Corporation have within its portfolio, and at what stage of development are each of these assets at?
Well, Raleigh Lake is a very interesting resource near Ignis, Ontario. We've spent money in the last few years. We bought out our partner there, have 100% of it, and we've got it to the PEA stage, which is before feasibility. So we haven't done the environmental studies, we haven't done the full economic analysis, which is supposed to make it a so-called bankable scenario. But on the other hand, we have done a calculation of the costs, and we have done a calculation of the value of the sales. Now, to be clear, that was done at the end of 2023, and lithium prices have fallen quite a lot since then. So the costs probably haven't changed much because everyone's in the same boat. May have gone down a bit, but the revenues clearly would go down if you market to market now. But anyway, that was a PEA done, and that was preceded by a resource estimate. So we know how much is there, and again, we've got in Raleigh Lake, we've got 32,000 hectares, and we've only really done drilling on 600 hectares. Doesn't mean to say the rest will have the same, but it means that we've focused on that area, and we don't know we have some idea, but we don't know what's in the rest of it. And so we've got that. That is interesting. At high lithium prices, it will be a very valuable project. Not too. I mean, it's virtually on Lake Superior. It's only about 2 hours drive from there, so we can ship stuff from there to Windsor, Ontario, if there are a lithium plant for the car industry. Windsor is more or less the same as Detroit, and so that's an absolutely interesting project. Also have some rubidium there, but it's not. I mean, the scale of Karibib is larger than Raleigh Lake. Of course, Namibia is not a G7 country. I mean, the obvious issues, but on the other hand, that's got positives as well as negatives, and lovely people, charming, charming, capable workforce.
So should this transaction with the option go through, that indeed would be lovely. How would that assist the company's fortunes overall? Because within the statement, there's a key word which says that the option would allow you to leapfrog certain elements by years.
Well, for example, we've announced publicly that we're looking at various possibilities in Zimbabwe. We've applied for various EPOs there, which in Zimbabwe is an exclusive prospecting order. In Namibia, it's called a exclusive prospecting license. That gives you sole rights to do mining in really quite a large area, or not to do mining, to do exploration in quite a large area, other than what's already staked out. That if we were to get it will be very significant, but we would be starting exploration. Now, what we have in Namibia is something where someone else has started exploration and got a long way with it, and we have we hit the ground running, if you like, and so that's a. I mean, I've got no view on whether the Zimbabwe resources, if we get them, will be better or worse, but they'll certainly be earlier stage because they won't have been explored to the same extent.
Okay, so should the option not go ahead, what will the company be concentrating on, and what could be the next company maker?
Well, I still think Raleigh Lake is a very interesting project, and we also have a couple of other projects in Ontario, which are very early stage. One called Fire Steel, which may have more copper, and another one called Wolf Ridge. But I mean, one has to prioritize. Companies don't have infinite resources. It's not the best climate to raise money for a junior mining company. So one has to be very careful with not doing too much at the same time. But I mean, those are all things that absolutely, like a property company would call it land bank. We have and could be all individually valuable, but Riley Lake, we know the value, or we've got some idea. The other two, we don't really know, and we have been looking at Zimbabwe, where we're pretty sure that there's a lot of value there, but there's no value until we've got the the licenses.
Okay, and once you get the licenses, would you consider, because I was just thinking you're TSX listed, many explorers, particularly with those with interests in South Africa, are listed in the UK and South Africa, or both exchanges in both locations. So would the LSE or JSE be a consideration?
It always would be a consideration. I mean, I've been chairman of two AIM companies, so of course you can tell from my accent I'm not a Canadian, and I mean, that's always a possibility. All of the exchanges have their pluses and minuses, and clearly one of the pluses of the AIM market is that that London investors are more willing to invest in that than they are to work in a different time zone and trade in Canadian dollars. I mean, it doesn't change the asset one iota, but it does change the some of the issues. Yeah, we always will look at it, or even a standard listing would be another possibility. But I'm not for a moment saying we're going to do that. But those are things that we have looked at and we've thought about in the past, and we might think about in the future. But it's driven by practicality. If we can access a pool of capital more easily by doing one thing, we'll probably do that one thing. If we can't really, then what's the point of spending a lot of money just for vanity? So we're not going to be we wouldn't be doing that.
And that underlines your experience. You said there that you have been chairman of two AIM companies. So why should shareholders put their confidence and their money into you?
Well, those two companies definitely made money for shareholders. One was IDOX, which is still listed. I'm not on the board anymore. And the other was Lombard Risk, which did a trade sale. And very few shareholders lost money on those. Most made money.
So, John, it's never easy talking about yourself. It's much easier to talk about the project. So I started off talking about this opportunity to buy the option into Karibib. So what's the timelines like now? Should that transaction go ahead, when might we hear about it? And if not that, what else can shareholders expect to learn about?
Well, we're hoping. I mean, we set out in the news release the reason why we've done it this way, and so we are waiting for an external event, which is an arbitration award. There's arbitration proceedings between the Namibian company and a Chinese company. Obviously, we have no idea how that arbitration will come out. We've got our view, but we really, at the end of the day, it's not up to us. And my expectation is that as soon as that happens, if it's positive, we will likely go ahead. Obviously, contractually we don't have to, but that's the likelihood. Now, when that ruling comes in, I don't know. My guess is sometime in October. It could be earlier, could be later, but probably October. And so my expectation would be the option would be exercised, assuming everything goes okay, at the end of October or in November. And that's not very far away. And the benefit of that to us is we have time to get a transition team going, time to really do some detailed planning. And if we announce that we have exercised the option, which I hope we will, then we'll have done an awful lot of detailed planning rather than just actually being pleased to have done this deal and picked up the opportunity. So that's important. But I would expect by the end of November we'll have either exercised the option or not. And my hope, of course, I spent an awful lot of time getting this deal done. So of course my hope is that everything goes the right way and we do exercise it.
And I hope so too, because I look forward to speaking to you then when the transaction has been sealed and we can talk about the deal. John Wisbey, Chairman and Chief Executive of International Lithium Corporation, thank you for your time.
Thank you.